Why would a rescued puppy dig the same exact spot in the backyard every single day? They thought it was just a strange little habit, until one day the ground gave way, and what they found buried underneath, it changed everything, they say. Animals remember, the things we humans try hardest to forget, and maybe that's why when little Max, a rescued golden retriever puppy, came to the Dawson family, he brought more than just muddy paws and playful energy. He brought something else, a secret, buried. It all started on a foggy spring morning in upstate New York. Beth Dawson stood on her porch, arms crossed, watching her 8-year-old daughter Emily play in the yard. Laughing, barefoot, chasing their brand new puppy. Max had only been with them for a week. Emily had found him, trembling and wet near a construction site, abandoned, alone, shivering. She'd looked up at her father with tears in her eyes and said, "I think he's meant for us." And somehow, Beth believed her. At first, it was all the usual puppy things: chewed-up shoes, barking at squirrels, late-night potty trips. But by the 4th day, Max began doing something strange. He kept digging. Not just anywhere, but the same spot in the backyard, near the old maple tree in the far corner, rain or shine, day or night. Max would sprint straight to that tree, sniff wildly, and dig and dig and dig. Beth thought maybe it was just an old animal trail. Her husband, Kyle, joked, maybe he smells a mole or something. But it didn't stop. No matter how many times they filled the hole back in, Max returned, whining, digging, obsessively. Emily watched curiously one day and asked, "Do you think he buried something? Or maybe he found treasure?" Beth chuckled. But something in Max's eyes made her stop. He didn't look playful. He looked focused, almost haunted. Then one afternoon, Beth saw it, a flash of white under the dirt. Max pawed over it before. She could get a better look, but that night, after Emily had gone to sleep, Beth went outside, flashlight in hand. Max followed her, quiet, calm, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. She knelt, dug with her hands, and there, under the damp soil, was a bone, not an animal bone. Bigger, older, human-sized. Beth stared at Max. He sat beside her, still, silent. His eyes, almost relieved. The next morning, she called the police. Forensics arrived. They cordoned off the yard, cadaver dogs, shovels, cameras. More bones were found, clothes, a silver locket, torn fabric. Emily watched from her bedroom window, whispering, "Is Max in trouble?" Beth wrapped her arms around her and said, "No, sweetheart." Max helped someone find their voice. A week later, they got a name. Grace Holloway, missing for nearly 12 years. She had lived in that very house before the Dawsons ever moved in. Just a teenager when she disappeared, neighbors had long forgotten her, assumed she ran away. But Grace never left. She had been buried under that tree, and only Max knew it. The investigation uncovered a dark truth. Grace had been the foster child of the home's previous owners. The husband, long gone, had a violent past. One night, things went too far. He buried her in the backyard, and his wife kept the secret. For over a decade, no one knew. No one listened. Until Max. He had smelled the past, felt the pain, and refused to let it stay buried. News cameras came and went, but in the Dawson house, peace returned. Kyle built a wooden bench under the old maple tree. A small plaque read, "To those who cannot speak, thank you for those who listen." Emily drew pictures of Max wearing a detective hat. Beth just watched him sleep. Max never dug again, not once, not ever. He had done what he came to do. He had unearthed the truth, and for the first time since he came home, he finally rested. But the truth has a way of echoing. Even when the ground falls silent, some stories never stop calling out. After Max uncovered what lay beneath the old maple tree, the town of Willow Creek didn't feel the same anymore. Something shifted. A quiet acknowledgement, whispers at grocery stores, candles on porches, and outside the Dawson home, reporters. Some came to tell Max's story, others just wanted a headline. Inside the house, Emily sat on the staircase, hugging Max tightly. He didn't bark or move much anymore. It was as if, after finally being heard, Max was finally tired. "Is he okay?" Emily asked. Beth knelt beside her, brushing the hair from her daughter's face. "He's okay, sweetie. He just did something very big, something brave." That night, a letter arrived. No return address, no name, just a photograph. A young girl, with kind eyes, dark curls, and a golden retriever puppy in her arms. On the back, written in faded ink. Her name was Grace. She loved animals more than people, maybe because they listened. Beth stood still for a long time, holding that photo to her chest. Then she placed it on the mantel beside Max's collar. A week later, the town organized a memorial for Grace. Hundreds gathered under the blooming trees in Willow Park. They lit candles. They told stories. Some had barely known Grace, some hadn't spoken her name in years. But that night they all remembered. "She gave me her sandwich once when I didn't have lunch," said one man. "She always held the door open for me," whispered another. Beth stood at the back with Max at her feet. Emily held a small bouquet of daisies and placed them gently beneath Grace's photo. The tree in the Dawson backyard, once just an old maple, became sacred. People came quietly, left flowers. One little girl brought her favorite stuffed bunny and laid it at the base of the tree. Max watched them all, his eyes soft, his heart full. Then one afternoon, months after the discovery, a woman stepped forward. Her name was Rachel. She had grown up in the same foster system as Grace, and she had something to say. Grace had been scared. She'd confided in Rachel once about Mr. Jeffers, how he would scream. Sometimes more than scream, how she tried to run away. But no one believed her. Rachel's words sparked something deeper. An internal investigation began. Old case files, missing reports, neglect, silence, a broken system. Grace had asked for help, and the world had looked away. Beth couldn't sleep that week. She sat in Emily's room, just watching her breathe. She stroked Max's fur and whispered, "You didn't just find her. You made them listen." Beth began volunteering at local shelters, not just for animals, but for teens. She shared Max's story, Grace's story, and slowly, things began to change. One rainy afternoon, Emily ran inside carrying Max in her arms. "He's limping," she said, eyes brimming with worry. "The vet said it was hip dysplasia, common in golden retrievers. Nothing fatal, but he'd need rest. No more digging, no more long walks," so Emily stayed close. Every afternoon, she sat by Max's side, drawing. She told him stories. She brushed his fur gently. Sometimes, she just held him, because even heroes get tired. On the 3rd anniversary of Max's rescue, the mayor of Willow Creek showed up unexpectedly, in his hands, an engraved medal. "For Max," he said, "our silent savior." The town clapped. Max wagged his tail, just once, then curled up beneath the maple tree, and never got up again. That night, under the stars, with the wind whispering through the leaves, Max passed peacefully in his sleep. Beth held his head in her lap. Emily kissed his nose. Kyle buried him right beside the tree. They placed a small wooden sign beside Grace's. It read, Max, the dog who listened. The dog who told the truth. The dog who never gave up. Emily laid her old stuffed bunny on the grass, and on the bench above them, Beth carved the final words herself. Sometimes it takes silence to uncover what the world refused to hear. From that day on, people didn't just come to remember Grace, they came to remember Max, the dog who wouldn't stop digging, the dog who gave a voice to someone who had none. And whenever someone asked Emily why she loved dogs so much, she would smile, look toward the old maple tree and say, because sometimes they're the only ones who care enough to dig, all the way down to the tree.